So this week's we get to go through the biweekly update. For those that are joining, it's normally Jasper that hosts this call, but I'm fortunate enough to be able to trade weeks with him this week, and I get to go through the biweekly with the team here. And it seems like the entire year has been a year of growth for Rocket Pool. Looks like first up we have the protocol update. Are there any things in the numbers that were released in the biweekly update that you want to share with the group here?
Yeah, so mini pool growth has been really good this kind of the last 2 weeks. And node operator growth has been amazing. I don't know whether that's the Sassel effect or what, but that's been really good as well. So I think it was node operator growth was like annualized growth rate of like 130%. Mini pool count went up kind of an annualized growth of like 100%. So yeah, so they're all like really solid kind of numbers. So yeah, happy with that.
Yeah, it's always interesting. I always forget that, like I don't know. I always look at it and I look, oh, the deposit pool is full and there's still a premium. But yeah, if you do turn on events channel and you go look at there, it is always interesting the number of mini pools formed every day. Or if you look at Rocket Scan, right? I always forget about it, that there is growth and there is activity. It's just that the demand still outpaces even that activity.
That's right, exactly. I mean, it could be probably three times that, and we would still be still be saturated on that side. I mean, obviously that the premium would start coming down from then, but yeah. So that's. No, I mean, it's good. There's some good solid demand from both sides, so that's really good. Obviously, with Atlas is kind of still very much needed. So that's what we've been kind of working on quite a bit over the last few weeks.
Yeah. So I want to get to Atlas and talk about that. It probably comes up in the part of the R&D section here, but maybe start with the smart node stuff. What's up with our releases here? Are we due for a release? Should there be something coming out? When is Joe going to put out the next client release?
So I think we did speak about that very briefly today. So I think he's preparing a 1.7 point, is it 2? 1.7.2. So I think he's preparing that one, which he'll probably release um, over the next like 2 weeks or so, or next week or a week and a half or something like that. So that's I think his next one. The one that is mentioned in the biweekly update is the 1.8 release, which is a beta release, and that includes support for Lodestar and Nimbus in split mode, which is fantastic. It's good to see the split mode Nimbus kind of come in. So that's exciting. That's 1.8. I'm not quite sure. I think we're going to run that on Prada for a little bit to make sure everything's okay, and then we'll do like a 1.8 release which includes that stuff. Yeah. So and then obviously we've been working on when we get to it the Atlas releases, which is the one after that.
Yeah. So maybe so I guess in terms of then the R&D then is you're saying that version 1.8 on the test net that doesn't support Atlas. We won't be able to play with the LEB8s on 1.8. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So at the moment, 1.8, I think it just includes Lodestar and Nimbus and that stuff. I think there's a whole bunch of like Joe's been really working through. We've had lots and lots of community PRs, and so a lot of that I think is in like the 1.7.2 and obviously then 1.8. But yeah, 1.8 is mainly Lodestar and Nimbus support, or Nimbus split mode support. So that's that. And then 1.9, which is obviously a dev release at the moment, is kind of like a that we just really it's just us kind of using it at the moment. It's very very much in flux, so I wouldn't I wouldn't recommend anyone use it at all. That's got Atlas support, and currently our testnet doesn't support Atlas. Obviously, at the moment, we haven't migrated Atlas to our testnet, but that is on the roadmap for it's likely to be kind of end of January, or kind of mid to end of January, that we'll start doing a beta or migrate our testnet to Atlas. Now, there's going to be two parts to that migration, because obviously we're going to be pre-withdrawals at that point. So withdrawals Gorelli won't be upgraded to withdrawals at that point, but we're kind of working out with the core devs when they think that might drop, and so we're thinking maybe like early Feb, that we'll probably we'll have something, or kind of, well, they don't know yet. But I think there's actually a meeting, I think it's tonight, that will kind of hopefully shed a bit of light on when the test nets will get upgraded and that sort of stuff, or when they're hoping to get the test nets upgraded, so we can do that as well. But so first of all, it won't have withdrawal support, but then after, it'll have withdrawal support once withdrawals actually turned on.
Okay, so help me understand this a little better. And I know it's a little crystal ball, a little bit of sequencing stuff, right? But so
yeah,
the audits are underway now, right? And would those audits finish up before you deploy to the testnet, Gorilla?
Yeah, we're hoping so. Well, not hoping so, but we're ideally so. So we've got another. So Sigma Prime have already finished their audit, and so we've applied their feedback to the code now. There wasn't like there are a couple of highs in there, but not anything that was really that concerning. So that was a really good kind of outcome for us. And so once all the audit reports are done, we'll actually make those public. But we've got another audit booked in with Consensus Diligence early to, well, I think it's like the 9th of January or something like that. It's like kind of so early January. We've got Consensus Diligence starting their audit. They'll take a little bit longer. There are probably a couple of weeks that they'll spend auditing, and then once they're done, we should be in a very, very good place to push it live to migrate our testnet. So that's why I say kind of end of January, kind of early February is when we're thinking that Gorelli will actually be, or sorry, our testnet will be updated to kind of the Atlas code.
Okay, and then so I guess in the ideal sequencing, right, the audits finish up in January. You deploy the audit corrected code or any modifications to the code post audit, and they're deployed to Gorilla before withdrawals are enabled on it, and then and you actually watch the, I guess the fork upgrade. I guess it's going to be Capella that happens, and watch it on Gorilla, make certain it works on Gorilla, and then do the same on mainnet. What, in March?
Yeah, that depends. That really, well, yes. So essentially, that's kind of like the idea. Is once we have a couple of weeks of it being on the DevNet, then we can, or at least a few weeks on the testnet, and then we should be able to push it to mainnet. We want to see, like, we hopefully. So it depends on one thing that we're not sure about at the moment is which testnet we'll be able to test our code on in terms of withdrawals. So I'm hoping we'll get an early testnet, so like Sepolia or Sepolia, Sepolia, or something like that. If we do that, we might be able to move a bit quicker. But ideally, we would want to see Gorelli go through the kind of withdrawal fork, test out and make sure all of the withdrawal stuff finishes, and then from then we can push to mainnet.
Oh wow, man, this is starting to happen. It's getting it's getting close and exciting. And then I guess what are you going to disable or enable any features pre and post withdrawal? Like I know that I guess once you deploy the contracts and they're upgraded, we could form LEB8s, but what about solo conversion or what about redeeming existing half 16s to LEB8s? Will those be disabled afterwards because of the economic, kind of the economic benefit to doing it after withdrawals, or are you just going to make it a free for all and educate people, or what are your thoughts around that?
I think the plan is to um, kind of open up LEB8s. It is tricky because before withdrawals there are some quite it could cause some nasty UX if we so for example, particularly well solo migration we can't open up. So solo migration would definitely be disabled pre-withdrawals because you actually can't um, solo migrate until after the withdrawal hard fork, and that's because you need to be able to change your credentials from a BLS credential to a 0x01 credential, and that's not implemented until withdrawals are implemented. So that's the first thing. But if you're also converting from an eight, sorry, from a 16 to an eight, um, you you have to let the skimming process go through first, because otherwise the otherwise your kind of amount that comes back is going to be shared with the pool, and you won't necessarily want that. You want your skimmed rewards to go to you, the ones that you've been earning since the start of whenever you spun up your mini pool. So there's definitely some UX issues to kind of consider there. So I think with Atlas, I think it's a case of um, we will probably enable LEB8s, but we may not enable kind of like the actual migrating of 16 to 8s until withdrawals are actually implemented because of this kind of UX issue. So that is still kind of a little bit up in the air, but that's what we're thinking at the moment.
Yeah, it's an interesting, I guess, thought, right? In that there's some people that probably want to chase the ARB opportunity and maybe the ability to use the full deposit pool, right? Meaning that there is availability in ETH deposit to convert over. But you don't want anybody to get burned realizing that they gave, a larger percentage of their earned ETH over the past, year of validating back to the rEthers, right? So you got to worry about that user experience, but you also don't want to not allow people to kind of chase the opportunities that exist right now. So it's going to be a tough needle to thread there.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, probably the easiest thing would be for us to kind of disable eights until withdrawals kind of happen. But then we're sacrificing some growth that we could be having as well. So I think that's yeah. There's definitely some decisions to be made there, but for the most part, I think the code kind of supports those sorts of models. So at the moment, I think the main issues are around solo migration. Solo migration definitely won't be enabled, and I think even migration from 16 to 8s won't be kind of enabled until we get withdrawals because of those UX issues.
Yeah, or the other option is just kind of like what we did on the diversity thing, put a disclaimer on it, right? Put some red text and say, hey, converting your half 16 to an LEB8 ahead of withdrawals may not be the most financially wise decision or whatever, but there's probably an argument to be made to just chase the returns while they're there too. So
Yeah, because it may work out for them,
yeah,
but it may not. So
yeah,
it really, uh, yeah, I'm probably erring on the side of caution. I'd rather people not have a terrible experience, because some of these people may have been, because I think it's like I think actually maybe we do the numbers, but like worst case scenario, they may even out if they arb. But that's if they arb. If they don't arb, then they don't, and then they're not going to make it. Then they're just going to lose money. So it really is a tough kind of call. But I think I'm leaning towards not just to save lots and lots of pain.
Yeah, and I forget who. Maybe somebody in trading can post it, but somebody had done a nice couple of sheets and analysis about when it makes sense and when it doesn't make sense. But I agree, it gets a little complex with multiple factors in. So
because the other factor is how fast because that opportunity may only be for like a very short period of time. Do you know what I mean? Like if the deposit pool, if we release LEB8s and there's a whole heap of LEB8s that come in, that the premium could disappear quite quickly. So there's a lot of factors to kind of consider there, and
yeah, not only would the premium disappear, but the other thing is what I would call maybe lost opportunity costs, where let's say that the premium's gone, but there's still some ETH in the deposit pool. I could convert my 16 to 2/8, but I need to make certain that there's still money in the deposit pool to redeem that coupon on the LEB8, right? If there's no money in the deposit pool, then then it's back to kind of waiting for a deposit of at least 1 ETH and no Q, right? So it creates all these very interesting gameplay dynamics about when does it make sense to try to rush into this, when does it make sense to just kind of wait it out a little bit, right? There's so many factors, and I think the demand's going to be really, really high for LEB8s.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Sorry, I was going to say something, but I've now forgotten what it is.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to. I think one of the things in the new year we'll have to do, and maybe it's closer to when we're actually going to test the LEB8s on there, but because the dynamics of redeeming, I'm calling it the coupon. I don't know what you guys are calling it, but when you cash in a half 16 and you get an LEB8 and a quote coupon,
you get credit.
Yeah, credit. There's some rules about redeeming that credit that I think we really have to spend a lot of time making certain people understand, so they're not left with holding a credit and only one validator for a long period of time.
Yeah, I mean, that was what I was going to say. One of the things that we have discussed kind of internally and with the community as well is when a good time to increase the deposit pool size might be. So, for example, coming up to the Atlas release, increasing the deposit pool size a little bit, means that we can have have a much larger pool of ETH sitting there waiting for these LEB8 operators to come in. That's definitely an option as well.
Yeah, no, that's a great option. I hadn't thought about that, but that could really remove a lot of the, I'll call it the stress or the uncertainty about converting, and that could be really good actually for the protocol as a whole, right? I mean, if you do it right, it won't have much of an impact on the the rETH returns, but would definitely remove a lot of the stress. Oh, excellent. What about the other topic here that is in the R&D one, which is the use of the router for people that need to buy rETH and routing them to the most economically advantageous route to obtain it. How is that coming?
Yeah. So I think maybe Mav's spoken to you guys about this before, but I think it's like the first time I've spoken about it. So back in a few weeks ago, we looked at integrating. Obviously, the fact that people come to the website and they can't mint rETH because the state website just uses the deposit pool is an issue, and we wanted that kind of user experience to be a lot better, so that when people come to the site, they can actually get rETH, whenever they want, even if that means that we have to kind of route them to the secondary market and give them kind of the kind of market rate as well. I think it's important that they can always kind of get rETH. So we did play around with 1inch, but 1inch has the problem of the fact that they are essentially blocked. They block US users, and we couldn't really justify it from a legal standpoint. Us basically going around their restrictions. So we looked at a few other options, but we actually decided to kind of build our own router, which was actually very simple. So we've got like now a contract which does some of the routing, and there's some JavaScript code that does there's some JavaScript code that actually produces the route, and then the contracts actually execute that, and it works across like Uniswap and Balancer, and so that we can actually kind of offer the kind of market rate on that. And Nick has been working really hard on kind of optimizing it and getting it to kind of work really well and make the flow really usable. At the moment everything's built. We're just kind of doing some optimizations because the new method has a lot more calls, which means that it was a bit slower, particularly on like the initial load, and also kind of when you change prices and or straight change amounts and that sort of thing. So we're just doing some optimizations to make sure that is as kind of natural feeling and snappy as possible. So we're very close. The optimizations are going really well. Nick has managed to optimize the crap out of it. We've just got one more optimization to see, which should make quite a big difference. One more optimization to kind of implement, and then we should be ready. We're hoping to kind of like get it done before Christmas, but I actually think it's going to be like extremely early in the new year. So we'll push it out kind of first few days of January and that sort of thing. But that'll be really exciting because it means that anyone who comes to the staking website can actually get rETH, whether that's from what it does is it kind of determines whether there's space in the deposit pool. If there is space in the deposit pool, it takes from the deposit pool. Otherwise it kind of like does like a best route for getting it from Balancer and Uniswap, and then gives them the price to make sure they're cool with it and that sort of thing.
Oh, that's awesome. And Nick, thank you very much for spending time and doing that. I think that's going to be great for anybody wanting to acquire rETH or liquid staking derivative token on it. And will it do like partial routing? Like if the rate is such that let's say somebody wants to get 10 ETH into rETH, will it split it and say buy 5 from Balancer and swap 5 in the deposit pool? Okay.
Yep, that's it. Exactly.
Very cool. Yeah, no, that could be incredibly helpful here. And I was even thinking back while you were talking for a little bit about your previous comment about increasing the deposit pool, and I haven't played with it, but maybe somebody could do it in trading. I wonder how much of a deposit you need to open it up to remove the premium off the existing secondary markets. It's probably wouldn't surprise me if it's 5,000 ETH or more that could be harbed into it. Meaning that if we opened it up, somebody can just a bot could grab it in the first the first block.
Just jumping in here, say that I'm sure it's clear to most people that none of this work was completed by me. That's the Nick number 1. I think I have to just change the display name of this Twitter account when I jump on these spaces.
Yeah, sorry. Did I say the wrong Nick? I meant Nick D. I'm sorry. So excellent.
Yeah. I think that we discussed how we might increase the deposit pool thing as well. I think there's two trade-offs. Like if we if we do it all in one go, as you said, somebody could flash loan their ARB, and essentially, like as you said, the premium would decrease, but like very few people would actually be able to deposit. The other thing we could do is do it kind of incrementally, and then there's more chance of other people being able to get in. But even then, like it's a bot, so like there's not much that we can kind of do in terms of that. Those bots are kind of there until the premium normalizes.
Yeah, either that or you open it up and we send our own bot in there to give it back to the rETHers or put it into the smoothing pool or something like that. What about the other comment you had in governance here, or excuse me, in R&D, which was the post-Atlas upgrade? I think you said you were calling that the Little Joe upgrade. What are you guys thinking about putting in on that?
I don't know. The Little Joe, I think Joe's working on some stuff around that. I haven't been as across that one.
Are you guys thinking like LEB4s or reducing that, or is it going to be the SaaS product, or do you?
Oh no, sorry. It's mainly SaaS. SaaS is coming after Atlas is SaaS, which we didn't get enough time. So Kane's kind of on leave now, but we did start. He started getting his head back into SaaS and figuring out what we're going to do around that. And so yeah, that we're definitely taking another look at SaaS to see whether we can kind of simplify and kind of get it out a bit quicker, or at least figure out what we need to do on it. So that will be the first thing that Kane will be doing when he gets back is getting back into the SaaS and then figuring out what we're doing with that. So yeah, SaaS is essentially the next thing after Atlas at the moment.
Okay, excellent. So maybe let's move on to the governance topic, right? And there's been kind of a big topic discussion about the rewards tree, right? Especially how the rewards tree might now apply to the RPL rewards. What's the latest with that, and what's the team kind of thinking based upon some of the initial feedback?
Yeah, so I think there are a couple of different elements to it, and I think there's like a element which is essentially that people like mini pools that weren't in the smoothing pool or weren't. Now I'm trying to remember the thing, but essentially there's one element that's not controversial, and then there's the other element which is controversial, which is around the prorating of the RPL rewards. And so I think at the moment we're kind of leaning towards, and I think the discussion is lent towards the fact that we should just go ahead and do the non-controversial one because that's a no-brainer, but we need to have a bit more of a think about the more controversial one, which is around kind of prorating the kind of RPL rewards. So I think that's where we're up to at the moment.
Okay, interesting. And then it looks like there's still some proposals or incentives here for liquidity development and liquidity expansion. I must admit I haven't paid that much attention to the IMC, but what's the latest there, and how are the incentives doing?
Yeah, no, they're doing really well. Like the IMC are kind of regularly getting out the bribes, I guess is officially what they're called. But essentially, we've got currently, I think we're still incentivizing the balancer pool, and still the balancer pool. We've also got a trial with Gamma to incentivize concentrated liquidity on Uniswap v3. That's going quite well. But we're kind of like seeing how that kind of plays out. The the point there in the biweekly is that there's some other projects that do concentrated liquidity on Uniswap v3, and they've posted some proposals about using those. So I think the IMC will kind of review those and see whether they're worth kind of going for trialing as well. But yeah, no, the incentives are going really well. And then from the OP perspective, because we had the OP grant given to us, so we've been regularly we'll be doing that every week basically, and so we've been incentivizing the Beats or Beethoven X pool on Optimism, and the Velodrome rETH pool as well. So yep, so that's been kind of happening as well, and so yeah, our liquidity has kind of been building up, and yeah, it's been very successful. The volumes have been quite good as well. It slacked off a little bit over the last couple of last week or so. I suspect the kind of run up to Christmas and that sort of stuff, but yeah, the volumes have been quite good. Obviously that feeds into like coin. Now I'm trying to remember.
Chainlink.
The link Oracle. Chainlink. Thank you. Chainlink Oracle. And so yeah, that's been going quite well.
Yeah, since you brought up Chainlink, I mean, is there any progress in that and hope, or is it just sort of like Coinbase, when it happens, it happens, and we get very little notice?
Yeah, when it happens, it happens. I think the current update is like mid-Jan, or like 11th of Jan or something like that. But we have to kind of wait and see. Yeah, it's a waiting game. I think that in some cases they're waiting for the volumes to be consistently above 2 million. But like now is not a great time. we have been above 2 million quite a lot, but we're not consistently above 2 million. So and they've got like this not restriction, this constraint on that they want us to be above that to get market data. To be honest, I think one of the things is we want the market data to be included because it's a more solid Oracle at that point. A lot of the integrations kind of require that. But one option would be to just go with the calculated feed, which is essentially just the same as our rETH price from our smart contracts. And that may well get us some of the integrations that we need, which would then promote volume, which would then, all of that sort of stuff. It's a bit of it. That is definitely a chicken and egg. You kind of need that Oracle, which you need the volume to get an Oracle. You need the Oracle to get the integrations, which then feed into the volume. So, yeah, it is definitely a wait and see.
Yeah, and a little bit of a catch-22, huh? We can't grow without the Oracle, but without the growth, we can't get the Oracle, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Interesting. And then I see in there you had that Sossel joined the ODAO. That was great to see. What's the, if I recall correctly, when Dave had mentioned the additions or expansions to the ODAO, that there was going to be perhaps maybe a second part. I know Gitcoin was coming up. Have you heard from them or any of the other folks?
Yeah, so there's Gitcoin, and then obviously the rocket scientists, which we'll work with you on in terms of that. So they're the two in this round. There is a bonus round. The reason why we're kind of keeping it tight is that we're under NDA, so like we actually can't mention it at the moment. But as soon as they give us the go ahead, we can. So there's that. So there is this kind of bonus round where there are two large kind of entities that are considering joining the ODAO. Well, that we've said we would like to propose you, and they're well. One is definitely they will, but we just need the right timing to kind of announce it to everybody. And then the other one is still kind of like trying to figure out internally how they would kind of do that. So yeah, so unfortunately I have to kind of like not say anything about that yet, but there are two kind of larger players that are interested in joining the ODAO.
I'm laughing here. A35U says it's surprise. It's FTX.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that would be funny. No, it's not.
Wow. Okay, that's exciting. You've piqued everybody, including everybody in trading here. Man, I've watched 100 episodes of Rocket Fuel, and I don't remember this being mentioned at all. So I don't know. I gotta have a talk with Whackers. He's not doing his investigative reporting correctly here, man. This one's interesting here. So yeah, no, that's great news. What about if we move on to the next topic here on integrations? Anything in the integrations that you really want to highlight? It seems like there was quite a lot, including our first sex here.
Yeah, that's right. So obviously, well, okay. So there's the Open Ocean, which is like again like a 1-inch type aggregator. They've integrated the deposit pool into their routing as well, which is really good. Interest protocol now supports rETH as a collateral. So I think they're an interest rate swap protocol, as I remember. So that's really great. So that adds interest rate swap. No, hang on. They're a collateral asset. Okay, so they may be lending. And then so that's kind of more utility for rETH, and we'll kind of build on those integrations. Obviously, the more of those kind of integrations we get, the more options people have in terms of the utility of rETH. There's a PTE game. Okay, all right, cool. I didn't know that one, but that's really good. They're supported on Arbitrum. But obviously, the kind of big news was kind of Coinbase launching trading of RPL, which is fantastic. That's obviously been in the works for quite a long time. I think we put our application in like something like 9 months ago, or not even that, more than that, like 12 months ago. And so yeah, that's been a long time kind of coming. But we've had a lot of conversations with Coinbase, kind of in that time, in terms of the application, kind of to try to get RPL in there. So that's really great. That's now kind of launched, and yeah, I think it was a bit overwhelming, or underwhelming, in the sense that it's RPL is now on Coinbase, but I think it what's great about it is it does. We're definitely now in that phase of we're in a much more, I guess, elevated position in terms of Rocket Pool is definitely one of those. We're top 100 project. We're on Coinbase. All of these things stack up over time, and so we don't have to worry about legitimacy too much nowadays, because we're already there. So which is really great to see.
Yeah, no, it is really great to see this integration. I mean, not only are we in the top 100 coins, not only well respected, but this year, we're even sponsoring ETH Denver. Are you looking excited to that and looking forward to it?
I'm pumped. Yeah, I'm pumped for ETH Denver. It's going to be fantastic. So yeah, so we're definitely looking forward to that. And I know Mav's kind of I'm doing a lot of work in the background in terms of that stuff. But yeah, so no, we're definitely pumped for ETH Denver. Yeah, I think that probably one of the things that kind of got me excited was the fact that when Mav said that there was like 30 people or 25 people or something that signed up to help us on the booth, it's just amazing. That's awesome. And it's gonna be fun hanging out with the community, and yeah, talking to everyone and getting to know everyone. It's gonna be really good. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, same here. I think just meeting so many people from the Rocket Pool community is going to be so great. It's going to be wonderful to put faces to names and do that. And yeah, I don't know. We'll ask Mav here in a little bit about to tell us the latest, because we all love talking about ETH Denver, myself in particular. But still want to encourage people that want to come and help out on the booth. I do have these fears that the crowds are going to be huge and the booth is just going to be swamped then. And I think the more that can work in and the more that can preach and evangelize about Rocket Pool, just the better. So if you're thinking about coming to do it, please come out to the ETH Denver channel and fill out the form and volunteer. But Nav, what are you thinking? What's the latest with ETH Denver? What should the community be working on or thinking about, and how can they continue to help?
Yeah, so I think most of that's going to be kicking off kind of early next year. Well, we've got like a list of stuff. So we're definitely doing all the merch. So we've started that process of shortlisting the places we're going to get the merch from, and kind of ordering like samples and that sort of stuff. Obviously, there's the volunteers for the booth. I think we've already got branding and that sort of thing for the booth, and we had that for DevConnect. Actually, we already had branding ready for that. So we've got some branding for that. There's a lot of stuff that I think on the ETH Denver side, they're still sorting a lot of stuff out their side as well. So I know Mav's been kind of listening to see what's going on in terms of ETH Denver and the organizational aspects of that. So yeah, we're kind of figuring out that. I think I think our sponsorship enables us to have 2 speaking spots. I think at the very least we'll use one of those, but I'll try and figure out what well, we should try to use both. So we have to try and figure that out. So yeah, we're going to start thinking about that as well, and kind of what the talk will be about and that sort of stuff. With kind of Atlas on that horizon, that would be a really good opportunity to kind of lean into that, and particularly like solo migration as well. We want to kind of lead into solo migration and withdrawals and what it means. So we'll try and come up with the talk that hopefully kind of waves that flag a little bit. Yeah, so there's all this kind of stuff. The other thing that Mav's been working on is kind of, or starting to talk about, is the kind of like the social event kind of side of it as well. So we're trying to kind of organize some sort of social event while we're there as well. So they're all kind of like the pieces at the moment. They're all kind of like floating around, but we'll kind of start nailing those down.
Yeah, it all sounds great. I'm just looking forward to any of that. Not only to meet folks in the community, but it's also a really cool time to meet some of the other folks from the Align communities. Like, it was great to meet some of the actual devs at some of the client teams, and just really good. And ETH Denver is big enough that most of the people there aren't in the infrastructure track, is I think what we're going to be on. But I definitely wanted to mention that if you go to the ETH Denver channel on Rocket Pool, I put in there a link today. They had posted on one of the Telegram channels for ETH Denver. They had posted the application for scholarships. And they're really trying to encourage people that either have never gone or that are a minority, especially females, to apply for their scholarships to go. And the scholarship will it appears to cover your travel cost and your lodging costs during the main event. And literally, there should be enough food between the last year they gave you cryptocurrency that could be used at a lot of the food venues and food trucks around the area. So really, it's just getting there, and this scholarship could really help. So if you're at all interested in thinking about it, go into the ETH Denver channel, look for the link on the scholarship, and get it in. I believe that the deadline for applying to the scholarship was the end of the calendar year, so December 31st, 2022. People can correct me if I'm wrong, but I just wanted to share that with everybody listening to this space. What else from the media and marketing, Darren or Mav, do you think we should cover on today's call? There was quite a lot going on, including Rocket Fuel's 100th anniversary or 100th episode celebration.
Yeah, maybe I can speak to a few of these points. First of all, just on the topic of ETH Denver, and I think you might have mentioned it, Ken, already, but just to re-emphasize, if you are attending ETH Denver or considering attending, and you want to participate in any of the Rocket Pool events, so we're talking social events, maybe more semi-formal event that we might host, and of course the volunteering, please take a couple minutes to fill out the form, which resides in the protocol announcements channel in Discord. I think it's the second most recent announcement about a week ago, so you'll find a link there to the Google form. And yeah, on that form we already have, I think it's around 20 or over 20 people registered. I say registered, it's kind of informal at this stage, but of them, quite a few people have indicated they'd be able to help out with multiple shifts at the booth. So yeah, really great to see that we'll have a good presence from the community helping to man that booth. And on a second somewhat related note, we have the Git POAP for Atlas research. If you are on the list of recipients, it's in that same announcement in the protocol channel on Discord. 2/3 of the people there have sent me their preferred recipient address to receive that Git POAP. For the remaining third, if you could drop me a DM before the end of the week, that would be great. Just helps me out a little bit, and then I'll go around and kind of follow up the remainders, and then we'll get that out shortly thereafter. So there are a couple of points towards the top of the media and marketing section of the biweekly report. In terms of the remaining items, there was a lot of raffle and giveaway activity. So we had that anniversary POAP raffle. We had Whack Whack Attack's pretty incredible milestone, I have to say, of 100 Rocket Fuel episodes, and the raffle that he helped to coordinate as part of that, including some of, I believe, his own contributions towards the prizes, and then everyone's favorite intern also intending to do another raffle at some point as well. So certainly a lot going on there. Related topic being, and it's a little bit further down the list, I don't know who compiled this list, it's not in a very good order, but another Rocket Fuel POAP related item being the smoke detector battery. So that was a funny little event. In terms of the other items here, we have the usual kind of list of content that pops up from time to time on Twitter. One point worth mentioning is the one down at the very end, which is, I suppose, somewhat of a higher tier of the usual kind of media coverage that we get. Obviously, it's great to be featured in all of the, I suppose you could say, more niche DeFi or Web3 related platforms. But Forbes is very much a household name. And even though it was kind of just a single mention in a paragraph and not a dedicated article on Rocket Pool yet, yeah, pretty incredible that we were able to get that mention. And yeah, that was courtesy of someone reaching out in the Rocket Pool Discord. So certainly some eyes on Rocket Pool in terms of us being mentioned in the article along with some of the biggest names in DeFi. So that was certainly a standout item for me. another. Let's run through the final points. So our friends at Bankless put together a list of 5 protocols that they believe are performing really well despite the market conditions. And Rocket Pool mentioned there. I had to laugh actually. I think there was a reply from I can't remember which protocol they were aligned with, whether it was Bitcoin Maxi or whether they were from Cardano or something, and they pointed out that of course Rocket Pool's at an all-time high because you can't withdraw the ETH, and I can't help but agree with them on that. Although certainly some of the other metrics that we're seeing in terms of continual growth is great to see. And I've mentioned this a couple of times on the previous bi-weekly calls, but these numbers that we're seeing in terms of mini pool and node operator growth and RE supply, these are some pretty good numbers. And we saw kind of an immediate uptick post merge, and I think there was a bit of uncertainty as to whether these performance figures would be maintained. And it seems that they are. It's kind of up only ever since then, and it's great to see that despite everything, well, I guess it could be due to the fact of everything that's happening in the kind of more centralized part of the industry, that we're seeing every day growth in terms of awareness and interest and people wanting to participate in what Rocket Pool has to offer, being a truly decentralized protocol. So have to say they're not wrong back.
Yeah. I think the other kind of telling sign is the fact that every other LSD is at a discount and we're at a significant premium. So that's a I mean, we have kind of constrained supply, but at the same time, that's a very good sign for us.
Yeah, Lingers, you ever think you would be quoted in Forbes magazine? You gotta check that off your bucket list. That's pretty big accomplishment.
I haven't even mentioned it to my wife yet. So I've been keeping on meaning it, but mundane stuff keeps on getting in the way. It's like,
yeah, you should definitely brag about that one with the misses there for a little bit there. I did see in here that somebody had posted, it's a Sneaky Ninja Guy, that Mab, it's probably worth mentioning that there's 2 forms out there, right? One is a survey form that you need to act quick on, which is one that Zero has going, that is for housing, right? It looks like we want to get 2 Rocket Pool related Airbnbs, one somewhere in Denver proper for the main event, and then one up in the hills, the mountains in Breckenridge for the mountain retreat, where we're all going to go skiing and learn how to ski and snowboard up on the mountain. And then Mav, yours, that is one for participating in the Rocket Pool socials or events, and as well as volunteering for the booth and I guess picking up some swag and so forth.
Yep, for sure. And also worth repeating that the more official, as it were, form is mostly for our planning purposes. So in terms of getting a feel for what kind of size we're going to need when it comes to event venues and kind of resource planning for the booth. So if there is any confusion, if anyone kind of forgets to fill out the form and then at the last minute wants to be a volunteer or to participate in the events, it's not going to be the end of the world, just so long as we get a fairly good indication, and it looks like there's a pretty great turnout. But yeah, of course, the more accurate the data in that form, the better. So if you are perhaps a little bit confused about the Denver participation, the forms, drop a message in the Discord and trading. We can sort you out. I think one final point that's worth highlighting here in the media and marketing section is the last week's community call, and that's part of the reason why we've done a bit of a switch around when it comes to hosts and times, and why we've got you here as the host today, Ken, is that we had someone from Gamma Strategies on to talk about concentrated liquidity management on Uniswap v3, which I felt was it was a really great call, both not in terms of the topic being very interesting and something that a lot of people might not be so familiar with, even though perhaps you make use of that liquidity when you're buying and selling various tokens, but also the guest that we did have from Gamma was obviously incredibly knowledgeable, but did a really great job at I think, describing and explaining the topic in a way that was easy to understand, but without missing out on any of the details. So whether or not you're really involved with the DeFi side of things, liquidity provision, I highly recommend checking out that recording on YouTube and giving it a listen. It was a great call. But I think with that, we've kind of covered off the main points of the media and marketing section. And yeah, this will be our final bi-weekly report for 2022. And we'll have another call. I think it's at the earlier time. Is that right, Ken, with you hosting next week, kind of between the Christmas and New Year breaks?
Yeah. We'll have one more Twitter space that in Pacific time is 11 a.m. on Tuesday, the 27th, but your date and time may vary. Just look in the events channel in the Discord. It's going to be up there. And I guess, no chit chat this week because of the holiday coming up. Is that what it is?
Yeah, exactly. And same for the week after too. If there are people floating around in trading, we can always jump in the channel. I think this call was just, to use the other meaning of the word call, the decision was made due to the turnout we kind of saw on the chit chat, I think immediately after Thanksgiving, which was quite light. At the end of the day, if there are people who are degen enough to be floating around in Discord during those times, we'll be more than happy to jump on a quick chit chat, usual time, usual date, in Discord in the voice channel there.
Excellent. Well, Mav, Langers, it has been an absolute pleasure to spend another hour chatting with you. Lots of good information, Darren, especially from you. Just thank you for sharing what you continue to share. Now we're all going to have to do our homework to kind of figure out who those additional ODAO members might be that you're alluding to. But
now I've started the conspiracy. It's like,
yeah,
that's what trading needs. Trading needs a conspiracy every week.
Every week, either that or a PO-op. Your call. Yeah. All right. Well, again, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I look forward to chatting with you guys, I guess, next week.
Yep, I'll see you there.
Ken. Thank you, everybody.
All right.
See ya.
Everyone have a great day.
See ya.